Hello, this is going to be a review session of the first weekend of me playing live poker at in Brighton. I'm going to try and keep it quite short. Well, I'm actually not going to try and keep it quite short, but what I meant to say is I don't think it will be quite short because I think I've been thinking about these two sessions a lot because I lost quite a lot of money for me personally. But and also just because I love thinking about poker hands. So I've prepared my plan is going to be brief overview. Going to go over the hands of my first session on Friday, my thoughts of the session, and that stuff will just be like my table image, the players, the styles I was seeing, any patterns that I noticed. Then I'm going to go over hands of session two, my thoughts on session two, and all the same stuff. And then I'm going to consider my style, how I played, and what I could have done better if I went back and played those sessions again. And then I'm going to consider what went well and what didn't go well, and then finally I'm going to consider what plans I have going into next weekend, because I'm definitely going to be playing next weekend. I'm not going to fire three buy-ins and then give up, because I do think the game's definitely beatable from my perspective. I'm definitely one of the better players there, certainly. Although, as I'll get into almost immediately, I suppose I suspect it's a tough game for live 1-2. Certainly a lot tougher than, not a lot tougher, but certainly for the most of the time it is a tougher game than in Liverpool. The casino I went to that I played in Liverpool is notoriously fishy. Right. So overview of the session. So first session, I arrive on Friday night and I'm on the waiting list for a 50p a pound game that's full, but then enough people join the waiting list that a 1-1 game starts. And I'm playing four-handed for a bit, and first thing I noticed, and I thought this is a massive thing that really struck me immediately, is everyone was young. I'd say everyone was in their 20s. I don't think there was a single player. I mean, there was a couple of guys that arrived later, but on the 50p a pound game table, everyone was in their 20s, which isn't a good sign from my experience. Older guys tend to be not necessarily more fishy, but have very defined styles that are obviously very exploitable. So when I arrived and saw no old people, that was a potential warning sign. But then again, obviously, it doesn't necessarily mean anything, but it's just something that I noticed immediately. I'm not going to jot that down because I don't think it's worth jotting down, because I'm not going to forget it. So I'm playing in this 1-1 table, four-handed for a bit, and there's an older guy who is quite quiet and he seems quite tight. He doesn't. He's very uncomfortable playing short-handed. Well, not uncomfortable, but he doesn't know how to play short-handed. Basically, like I was raising all my buttons pretty much, like raising quite a lot early. But we only had probably like 4 orbits before the game filled up very quickly to like 7-handed. But during that time, I was initially quite worried playing live 1-1 four-handed. That's going to be a swing fest. But actually, I clearly was the most experienced player playing short-handed. Like there was another young guy who I've since found out is like a reg short stacker, which is quite interesting. But the older guy brought in pretty deep, like 200 quid for this 1-1 game. I brought in for 100 quid, by the way, so I'll pop that down here. Session 1 in for hundo, and I'm playing. So yeah, like I said, playing short-handed. Then the game fills up to 7, and there's no really significant hands that happen short-handed. I pick up a pot of like 20 quid, so I'm up like 20 quid. And then I lose another like 15 quid or something in a couple of hands, but I'm picking up quite a lot of small hands pre-flop. People, like I'm raising cutoff and button and big blind and stuff, and it's I'm seeing a lot of folds, and I'm also seeing I am, to be honest, picking up good holdings. Like I was quite card live at the start of the session, but anyway, and I'm doing things like like I don't know, folds to the small blind. He checks his small blind, and I'm like raising to 4 with like any 2 cards basically, just because I'm in position. And I was doing lots of stuff like that, like raising a lot, um, and so I very much gave off like an aggro image, especially because I'm young and I'm new. I've never been there before. The couple of the regs that were like wandering around the card room, because like I said, this game was short-handed, but then it filled up to 7 because there was a few people like walking around the card room. So I definitely gave off an aggro image, and that was quite clear because there was a reg guy that sat down straight away and deliberately sat to my left. I was in seat 8, and this guy sat down in seat 9, deliberately to be on my left because I felt playing very aggro. I wasn't necessarily playing aggro, but I was like quite card live and was playing exploitative of the short-handed game. So initially my table image was aggro, but that went away very quickly because I wasn't picking up great cards, and I developed more of like a tag image basically. But also so strong player image. People were trying to avoid me early basically, like they weren't, because they obviously, I'm an unknown quantity. All the other guys know each other. They even know the old guy kind of. And yeah, so that was my initial thoughts on that £1 game, and I felt pretty comfortable to be honest with you. But unfortunately, I ran really bad. I can't remember the hand that got me to. What hand got me to 40 quid? Oh, it was this Ace King hand. This is the hand that I jam and lose. Okay. Yeah, and that's next second. Okay. So I think I've got these hands in order. I think. I've got these hands in order. Let me just think about this. Yeah, okay, yeah, I've got these hands in order. Right. First bullet, and we'll just go over this hand here. Pick up Ace King in the bottom. Hopefully this hand won't go too fast. I'll obviously be pausing it. So, we see a raise. Open raise from seat 6 to £4. I don't have any. This was quite early when the table was filled up, so I think I've got no reads on villain at this point. Fold to us, and we of course 3-bet in position to 11. Fold, and he flats. Flop comes Ace 7 Deuce, 2 clubs. Great flop for us, obviously, with the Ace King. We're feeling really good about life. In position, villain can have basically nothing that we're losing to. Like, maybe A7 if he's like pretty loose pre-flop, but that would, I don't expect them to be calling with A7. Obviously you can have 7s, but like 3 combos of 7s, not worried about that. Tons of hands we're getting value from, like Ace Queen, Ace Jack, Ace 10, Ace 9, probably all called pre, and we're all getting value from. Might not put another bet in with like queens. Stuff like that. Clubs, obviously, like King Queen clubs, King Jack clubs, stuff like that. They might have flat pre. So obviously we're going to be betting when this guy checks to us, and we bet 14. Yeah, I thought we'd bet 14. Bet reasonably large, 14 into 24, but like it's pretty standard actually. It's not particularly large. It's pretty standard sizing. He can definitely be calling us with his aces. There's enough that he beats that we're c-betting with. So he calls 14. The Deuce of clubs. Not a great card for us, because obviously villain has a lot of clubs. He can't have the ace of. He doesn't have that many clubs actually, given that he calls flop, and this is something that I'll get into more on the river. But given he calls flop, what combos of clubs do he have? Because we pretty much put him on like Ace 9 plus, like aces, maybe like 2 queens, perhaps, but not very often. So in that case, he can't have that many clubs, right? Can only really have like Queen of clubs, Jack of clubs, King of clubs, stuff like that. If he's holding the King of clubs, I suspect that he already has a made flush, because Ace King actually probably, given my aggro image at this point, I very much doubt he's going to be flatting out of position with Ace King. So that means his king clubs, when he has the king of clubs, he has like king queen of clubs, he has like king jack of clubs, which is a made straight because like king jack off with the king of clubs obviously fold and flop. So he has some made flushes, but like not many. He had, but again, his most likely holding that we're getting value from is like ace nine plus still. Ace nine, ace ten without an ace jack without the club is probably folding. Like the average live reg's probably still calling with like ace jack ace ten with the club though, with the clubbed kicker. So we're still definitely betting out for value here on the four flush. He can call us with a lot of hands, and if we check behind, it's so gross because if the like jack of clubs just rolls off, we're kind of screwed. So we bet 34, which is a big bet, but it needs to be big because we need to be charging draws. And also, we've got a very comfortable jam behind. I think I actually have slightly more at this point. I think I actually have about 40 behind. Oh no, I do have 40 behind. Oh right, yeah, I think I have like 40, yeah, something like that, 41, 42 behind. So it's decent jam sizing. He can still call us with like worse kickers basically. And he flats. We still feel pretty good. Well, until the ten of clubs comes, we still feel pretty good when he flats our turn. We're not worried particularly. We're jamming very comfortably. He's we're pot committed, and he covers us, so he's pot committed as well. Basically, he has to call us with the ace jack on the river here. If it rolls off, like forget the river card there. I'm still talking as if he's just called the turn and we haven't seen the river yet. Our plan is to jam, because if we had more, if we had like 80 behind, 100 behind, I would be tempted to just check behind. This is on like non-scary rivers, so like like four of clubs. I'm sorry, four of spades river, something random like that. We probably may be inclined to check behind, or maybe even just make a very very thin value bet, make it like 25. But when we've got 40 behind and he flats on the turn, we're pot committed, which actually works in our favour because it means he's pretty much pot committed. If we jam for 41 here, he has to call us with like ace 10, ace jack, ace 10, ace jack, ace queen, all have to call us. Kings finds a fold, but he doesn't have kings. Queen, I said he could have queens. Queens probably folds, but it probably folds turn. Queens with the club doesn't fold turn, and then in that case, he probably does still find a fold. He's not pot committed enough to have to play with that. So we still feel pretty good here. It's pretty standard, like worse aces are definitely calling, and then definitely calling the 41 on river. Right, but anyway, so we see the 10 of clubs roll off, probably the second worst card in the deck after like maybe the jack of clubs, queen of clubs. But so yeah, pretty bad. And then and then this is pretty awkward. He checks to us, and we're thinking here, what do we gain from putting in the last 41 quid? Basically nothing. Ace queen without a club is like ace queen hearts. Like it's probably folding. It is probably folding because he expects us to be checking behind with ace king like we've got without the club. So we can rep ace king with the king of clubs. We can rep that, but there's no. What's the point? He's not folding any clubs. There's no clubs that are folding here. If he has like ace 9, even if he's got this far with the 9 of clubs, he's just not folding. We're still losing to sevens. We're still losing to some sevens. We're still losing. Well, that's pretty much all we're still losing to. But obviously we're now losing to ace jack, ace queen. We're losing to ace 10 without the club. We're losing, so that's another downfall really. So I don't really see any option here other than to just check behind and hope that he just has like ace queen of hearts or something. So we do just check behind, and it turns out he has ace jack with the jack of clubs, which I mean Yeah, it's a bit of a sigh one, really. When I'm thinking about how I could have played that one differently, I don't really see anywhere. We have to bet the turn. We simply have to bet the turn. I mean, we're getting mad value out of this hand when it calls turn. So yeah, I mean, there's not much to take away from that one. We played it perfectly, like given his actual exact holding. Like we would play it exactly the same if we saw he had ace jack the entire time. So that's just spooning off 60 quid basically, which is a bit of a shame. So that's the first hand. And this is one I've got like 40 behind. I leaked another like 10 quid somewhere. Next hand, ace queen on the big blind. Fold, fold, fold. Oh yeah, it's worth mentioning here. This guy doesn't actually raise. This is just a call. Seat 6 just limps. But the formatting on this hand, like replayer, this hand creator, doesn't basically if I made him call and then I made him call, it wouldn't give the blinds an opportunity to raise. So imagine this is just a limp to a quid. Fold, fold, and then button limps as well. This guy checks his big blind, and then so it's 1-1-1. So there's actually only 4 quid in the pot, and I raised to 6. Call, fold, call. Oh no, sorry, fold, call, call. Right. So we're feeling great on both pre-flop and on the flop, and because we're pretty much looking to get it in on any queen or ace board. And when we see this, we have to be thinking we're getting it in here. Stack to pot ratio of not even 2-1. Like we have to be getting it in here. But to complicate things a little bit, the small blind donks for 14. 14 into 20, big donk, pretty big donk. And I'm thinking this is so value heavy. He wants us to jam here, very much so. It's a bit of a strange one really, because contrary to that is, if he does want us to get it in, why doesn't he just check raise if he does have value here? Because perhaps if he say he has 10 jack, say he has queen 9, queen 8, which he can have, because he's come in after the button's flat, my raise. His best play to get in is to check, let me barrel off with, I don't know, jacks or something, tens, anything, aces, like hands that he's beating, ace queen, like all these hands. Or sorry, I shouldn't say that, because they're hands that are probably getting it in anyway. Let me barrel off with like ace king, ace jack. Let me barrel off with sevens, rather than donking and letting those hands fold. So really, he should be looking to check raise. And also, if he checks and then I bet, like if I bet like 12, then seat 9 can sometimes call with like king jack, like 9-10, stuff like that, and then he can re-jam. That puts seat 9 in a tough spot, especially if there's dead money if I call. But he doesn't do that. He donks for 14, and I think this is a binary choice. I was very perplexed with this donk because it just didn't seem to make sense, as donks often don't. Excuse me. So it was very difficult to think what he had. It's pretty not polarizing, because he never has nothing. That's one thing we can definitely say. He never has nothing. He never has like ace deuce off or something. He never has like that. So when he donks, what does he have? Well, he can have hearts, I think. He can have like ace deuce of hearts, like nut flush draw, that checked the small blind. Hands like that. He can perhaps have like open-ended, maybe like 7-10, but I doubt it. Can he have like the peak of his range, jack 10? At the time, I remember distinctly thinking like, I think you're strong. Like the way he donked, it seemed really strong to me. It seemed like I was beat, but it also seemed like I just can't fold ace queen. That just seems like that just seems horrible to fold ace queen here. But I didn't love it. I really didn't like getting it in here. I thought about it for a minute. I really expected him to be ahead. I think what it was is, if he has a hand like queen 9, queen 8, 8-9, hands like that, or maybe even like, nah, eights raise pretty, like those exact hands pretty much. He doesn't want to see a lot of turns, right? Tens, jacks, he doesn't want to see those turns. Sevens even, he doesn't love sevens. Doesn't love sevens. Doesn't love aces or kings, given that we can improve to better two pairs. Like, doesn't love hearts. Three ways, hates hearts. So it seems like a decent donk off to try and get those hands to fold, because he's made it a sizable donk, right? And I'm not ahead of those cards. I've just got top pair, top kicker. I'm losing to two pair, so that complicated it a bit. But I think he has draws enough, or like king jack enough, like semi draws, like top pair and like gut shot, or like medium pair and gut shot, like 9-10. He has hands like that enough that, and given our, there's 34 in the pot, we've got 35. With top pair, top kicker, we just have to get it in. We have to get it in. Like, it seems horrible to get it in. He can call us with those hands I was talking about. Sometimes he can even call us of like, sometimes he can even call us of like random stuff. Queen 6 might even call us. Like, he can call us with hands. He can definitely call us with hands. So we get it in. Seat 9 folds. Seat 1 calls. Flips over the 9-8 for two pair. And unfortunately, we don't get there. We still got 25% equity when we get it in. So it might even be like a call anyway, given even like, we've got a pot size bet behind. He's bet 14. It's like, what is it, 14 to win 30, 35 or something? Like, and obviously there's no point just calling. We have to just get it in. Like, there's so many turns we don't like. So I think it's absolutely fine. Like, I don't think there are any mistakes. I think it would be pretty bad to read into that anymore. So I'm actually not going to read into that one anymore. Ace Queen again on the cutoff this time. I'm going to try and go for these hands slightly faster this time. I realise I am taking ages. So we see an early position limp and so it's showing that I've called. So see an early position limp and a middle position raise to 6. And this middle position guy is quite tight. He has a reasonably tight image pre-flop, so I don't really think I'm getting that much value from 3-betting here. I think we're perhaps just ISOing ourselves against better hands, and it's really bad if we're ISOing ourselves against like Ace King. Oh, sorry, it's what I need to mention before this has happened about why I'm suddenly back up to 100 quid. I busted my first bullet. Oh, you just see me bust my first bullet. I don't need to explain that. Okay. Rebrought for 100. And at this point, when I in for 200, and I'd say at this point I have tight image. But at this point, I think I have passive image. And the reason I say that is because there's been a couple of hands where I've been drawing and just not got there. So I've there was one hand where I flopped nut flush draw in position, and then like someone bets out, I flat, someone bets out, I flat, someone bets out. It's like 3 ways. I'm like on the button. So obviously it's a snap flat both spots because I want to keep both players in. And I've got effective stack size that I can just jam river anyway and get it in. So there's no point in check raising. Oh, sorry, there's no point in like semi bluff raising. So, and then I just fold river obviously because I don't get there. And that happened twice, I think. Once I flopped open ended, similar situation. Once nut flush. So I seem pretty passive, like call fold on the river. So people probably think I'm reasonably weak, like quite easy to get off a hand. Or perhaps quite easy to just value, like I seem a bit like a station that just folds on the end. Obviously that's exaggerated, but yeah, that's kind of more of the image I have at this point in the session. So, I just flat. I think it's fine to flat. I don't hate 3-betting, could definitely 3-bet, you're in position, but if he 4-bets, you just fold, and if he flats, then you don't love it, other than like the queen high board, but even then you don't necessarily love it. It could be getting tricky. And then, even then, on the queen high board, if he has like ace king, then you're not getting any value really, are you? So there's not many boards you love. So in the end, I do think flatting is better here. So we flat, fold, fold. I can't remember what big blind does. It just folds. Early position calls, and we're in position here at £20 in the pot. Ace 9 5 2 diamonds. So our plan here is we're pretty much on calling mode or betting mode if check to. That's pretty much where we're at in this hand. We could raise, but if we do raise, we're losing to ace 9, which seat 6 can have. We're losing to ace king, which seat 6 can have. Seat 4 is very much played it like he has a low pair, like could have fives. Obviously, we're not worried about that at all. Really, that's like 3 combos of fives, whatever. But we're pretty much in calling mode. We want seat 6 to bet out with his ace 10. We want him to bet out with his ace jack. And if we flat the flop, he will be betting out with his ace 10, his ace jack again for sure. So we want to keep him doing that. Whereas if we raise, he could be fine to fold with ace 10. And even if he doesn't, he's definitely just probably going to just check fold on the turn, especially diamond turns. So I like just calling, expecting if seat 6 c bets to, like I said, just call. So he bets 12, easy flat, like I explained. C4 gets out of the way. 4, and we're pretty much in the same spot here. We love the call. If he bets out again, we're just going to call. If he checked to us, we would bet, because ace 10 can perhaps check here. Ace jack can perhaps check here. But it doesn't, so... Oh no, it does check. Okay, so he checks. Like I said, I often expect like ace 10 to just check. I often expect like ace jack to just check. Ace king probably doesn't check. So we feel pretty good when check to here. We feel pretty good about it, and we have to bet this, I think. Oh, do we? Yeah, we do. We have to bet this. This is a mistake, because I check. We have to bet, because we're getting value out of ace 10. We're getting value out of ace jack. Sure, he can have king queen. He can have king jack. He can have jack 10. But all of those hands, all the broadways without an ace, we're not getting value from them anyway. So what are we planning for? We're planning to check, and then a Broadway card comes, and then we're planning him to bet when check to. If it comes jack and he checks and we bet, he's probably not going to call. Like, it's pretty obvious we have an ace. Pretty obvious we have an ace, because on the ace 9 5, what can we have other than an ace that flats his bet? Basically nothing. So we basically have an ace. And weaker aces, ace 8, he could put us on ace 8, he can put us on ace 10, stuff like that will check behind turn. So when we check behind turn, it's not like we're disguising our ace. We can still have an ace. So I think we do have to bet and try and get value from weaker aces here. Or like diamonds. But we don't. We just check behind. And I remember thinking at the time our plan was to just call. Obviously, like call river. That was our plan here. Check behind, and then he's going to think he can perhaps move us off a hand, like turn his jack 10 into a bluff, jack king into a bluff, stuff like that. Try and move us off a hand, especially if he puts us on diamonds. So that was my plan. Try and make him bet out again and just call him off. Comes queen of diamonds, which is an interesting river. He can have a bit of diamonds, but not very much at all, really. Like, I very much expect him to be continuing to c-bet on the turn if he has diamonds. Like, and the queen of diamonds basically means the only diamonds he can have is like jack king of diamonds and like jack 10 of diamonds, king 10 of diamonds. That's like the only. He has hardly any combos of diamonds, so we're very much not worried about diamonds at all. We're now being ace king, but given he checked turn, we don't really beat ace king. We're getting value off king queen, maybe a little bit if we make it thin. If we make it like 15, maybe you can look us up with king queen. But other than that, it's not a great value induced spot. Obviously, we're still betting because we have the best hand, right? We always have the best hand. But it's not, we're not jumping for glee here, whatever. It's not. He's folding the vast majority of his range. He checks, and we bet 32. Okay, so we make it huge, I think, if I've noted that hand down, which is wrong. That's another mistake. We definitely don't want to be making it that big. We want to be making it much smaller, 15, 20 maximum. I think at this point in my mind trying to get value out of like ace king, ace nine, ace jack, which actually I suppose is fair enough. Really, he can't really. I expect he's betting again with ace nine on the turn and ace king, but ace jack probably pays this off. Ace 10 maybe pays this off, but I doubt it. So yeah, I still definitely advocate making it smaller. What was the pot size? 42. Yeah, the pot size was 42. Like I said, I advocate making it 20 max. Like, I make it 15, I make it 20. I don't make it 32. That's much too large. I think that's a mistake. I think we need to know where our value's coming from. And the hands I just previously mentioned, that's where our value's coming from. The hands I previously mentioned, that's not really where our value comes from. We're not getting value from ace king, not really ace nine. You can't have those hands taking this line. We need to recognise we're getting value from like ace jack, ace 10, maybe even like ace 8. And if we make it 15, king queen as well. If we make it 15, he probably calls. Maybe even like king jack calls. Because we can. Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't call. King queen shouldn't call. King jack shouldn't call. But he might if we make it small enough. So yeah, I think that's a mistake. The river sizing there is very much a mistake. And then this is the last hand I'll go through for session 1. This is my last notable hand on session 1. 8's on the big blind. I'll just go through that quickly. We've got it's worth mentioning before this hand starts, we've got a good size stack here. We go, 100 quid behind pretty much. I think I'll probably have like 85, something like that, 90, something like that. So we've got decent stack size behind. So we don't mind looking for a set here, which is what I end up doing. So we see 3 limpers. Why is it taking so long? Why is it taking so long? I'll replay it. Why is it not doing it? Why is it not doing it? Please, please, please still have the same hand. Please. Yes, okay. And please work. Yes, it's working. Okay. 3 limpers. Seat 6 limps, I think seat 7 limps, and I think the button limps, and then the seat 1 checks his big blind. And that gives us our first option. So seat 1's checked his big blind, and we need to be thinking about where we're getting value from here. Should we be raising? Well, probably yes with 8s. We definitely probably should be raising here. But at the same time, we're definitely, if we make it like 8 here, seat 6 and seat 7 can call. If seat 6 has ace 10 suited, something like that, ace 9 suited, they probably are calling the 8. In fact, I'm very confident they would just call the 8 because it lets seat 7 come in, which then lets seat 9 come in, lets seat 1 come in, and they're all very deep. Like I haven't altered their stack size, but they're all very deep. Like they have like 250 behind, like 300 behind, something like that. These limpers, so like they're very much inclined to just call with suited hands like ace 10s and stuff like that, as well as their smaller pairs, like 4s through 7s will call. If we make it 8 to try and hit a set, whoops, not sure what I've done there. So I decide to just check, and it makes our set, if we hit one, very disguised, which is very, having disguised hands in live is so important, is like huge. It's a lot bigger than having disguised hands online. So we flop our set, but not on the most delightful board ever. Jack 10 is the straight, which we're losing to. Losing to 9s and queens. I don't expect anyone to ever have queens. Maybe like seat 6 or seat 7 has 9s. But basically we think we have the best hand. Very comfortable that we have the best hand. And we're also very much wanting to bet out because there's tons of hands we're getting value from. 8 queen, 9 queen, 8 9, 9 10, queen 10, queen jack. Like tons of hands we're getting value from. So, and only one hand we're losing to, 10 jack. So we're definitely trying to get value here. We don't want to check, because if we check and it checks through, then there's so many bad turns for us. And also, Also, if we check and say seat 7 or seat 9 bets, like makes it like 4. If we then raise to like 12, we're folding a lot of hands that we want to be getting value from, basically. And like I said before, like 10, 9, 10 queen, they may well be checking their hands here. Seat 6 is probably checking those hands. So it's definitely a spot we want to be getting value from. I have no doubt about that. And we make it 4, we make it quite large, 4 into 5. But I think it's fine. And seat 6 raises to 11. And this is interesting. What can he be doing this with? Well, he can do it with Jack 10 for sure. He can do it with Queen 9, Queen 8, 8, 9. I'd say they're pretty much the only hands he can be doing it with. I don't expect him to be doing it with like Queen 10. I expect him just flat. I don't really expect him to be doing it with 9, 10. He probably just flats 9, 10. So they're basically the hands he's doing it with, I think. But he's not even necessarily doing it that much with 9, Queen, and Queen 8 and 9, 8, 9. He does have I'm just thinking about it. I'm just going to skip to my option again because I think it goes fold, fold, fold. Yeah, it does. Looking back at this, I should just get it in. I should get it in. I should raise to 25, raise to 26, something like that. Probably. We have a set and he can call us with worse. Can he call us with worse, really, actually? You know, 100 big blinds deep. If we make it 25, what's he doing with 8, 9? Probably flats 8, 9. And then it comes king. Yeah, if it comes brick, and then we just jam, what's he doing with 8, 9? Probably folding. Like, he can't beat anything if we take that line. He really can't beat anything with 8, 9. Even 8 queen can't really beat anything when we take that line. And they don't expect us to be doing this with. They don't. These. I definitely don't have the image where they think I'm capable of doing this with like 10 queen, and I probably would do it with 10 queen. Seems like a pretty good spot to 3-bet with 10 queen. But I don't have 8, so basically they're going to be folding their like speculative hands like 8, 9, 8 queen if we make it 25, just because of our image. Like if we do that, he very much puts us on like 8, 9s and 10 jack. That's pretty much, or like 9 queen. That's like if we raise to 25 here. So he probably folds a lot of his value cards that we otherwise get very good value from if we then check to on the turn. Because if we flat here and then it might. Well, this is what I was thinking at the time, and I still kind of think it now. If we flat here and then check to him on turn, he's betting out on like brick rivers. Sorry, brick turns. He's betting out on brick turns, and that includes like aces and kings. If he's got like 8, 9, 8 queen, 9 queen, the hands we're getting primary value from. So that's pretty much our plan here. We call 11, and it does come brick. So we're thinking like, think about the hands we're trying to get value from here. 8, 9, 9 queen, like I said, like the hands went over. How are we best getting value from them? Well, check calling is the best, because they're all betting out. Whereas if we bet out, he's probably calling with 8, 9, 8 queen, stuff like that, but he doesn't love it. He doesn't love it. So I prefer to just let him check. I prefer to let him bet, rather. Because hands, you know, he's betting with a higher range than he's calling with. 9, 10 will still bet here. 10 queen will still bet here. 10 jack will still bet here. I don't see them checking behind. Whereas they would fold to a bet. So he bets 17 and we call. Pretty standard. And jack, pretty bad card for us, all things considered. I actually think, looking back, it might have been the jack of diamonds. Because I think backdoor flush draw got there. Not that he has that much of it, like maybe a bit of 10 queen, 10, maybe a bit of like 10 queen, 9, 10. Oh, he can't have 9, 10, 8, 10, but like not really worried anyway. Pretty bad card for us, and I don't think we should do anything other than just check. Because what are we gaining from betting here? Basically nothing. We're basically gaining nothing from betting here. He's folding his 8, 9. He's folding his 8 queen. He's folding his queen jack. He's folding his queen 9 if we bet here, because he just can't beat anything at this point. So I prefer to check. He can bet out for thin value with queen jack. He can bet out for thin value with queen 9, because we can call him here with like 9. We can call him here with like 9 queen. We can call him here with 8 9. We can call him here with 8 queen. So with the better 2 pairs, he's definitely betting out. I really believe that, and he can continue with bluffs. He can continue with like his weird gut shots that he's taken super aggro lines with, like jack 7. Yeah, stuff like that. That's just paired up, and you can turn those cards into a bluff. So I prefer to let him bet. I think he bombs it. He kind of bombs it. I think he might bombed it slightly more than that. I think he might have made it like 37, 38. I'm not sure. Basically, he makes it big. And we've got to think at this point, what can we beat? And I concluded that I basically can't beat anything. Because if he's sitting there with... I just said that he can bet out of all those hands, but now I'm really not sure. I might put this hand up for on 2+2 or Reddit, because it's quite a tough one. It's a really tough spot with the 8s. We're getting decent. We're getting a good price. Even if it makes it 40, we're getting a good price, right? 40 into 100. Putting in 40 to win 100. That's a good price. We're getting better than 2 to 1. We're getting like 2 and a bit to 1, 2.4 to 1, something like that. But what can he beat? We have to be good 33% of the time. Can he bet Jack Queen 33% of the time? Can he bet 9 Queen? I honestly don't think he can. I just literally disagree with what I've just said about why we're checking. Because I don't think he can bet those hands. Because we have plenty of 10s. Our line has so many 10s. He has to be scared of 10s here. He has to be scared of like 10 Jack, 10 9. He has to be scared of those hands. And we've checked our big blind, so we can have so many 10s. We can have like 10 deuce, 10 3, 10 4. We can have all sorts of 10s. He can't. So it seems so dodgy for him to bet with anything other than a 10. So I actually think this is a fold. I actually do back myself to fold this hand, and I thought about it for ages, and I nearly called. I cut out the chips and everything. I was really thinking about it. Very nearly called, but I ended up sliding the 8s into the muck. Side fold. And I actually think that was the correct decision. And we fold. Yeah, I actually think that was okay. So they're the hands for... they're all the hands I had jotted down for session 1. Some pretty tough ones, right? Pretty tough ones. But they're the hands I had for session 1. And, and so I'm down to like 71 at this point. I end up getting it in with queens and get called by ace king, unfortunately. Like I 3-bet pre with queens. Like I think middle position opens, I 3-bet, and then like big blind like jams. And obviously I'm calling off. Like, it's worth mentioning that people get it in very light. And this is something I'll say at the end of the next video, because I think I'm going to do this in 2 parts, or else it'll get very long, is I'm reconsidering the optimal buy-in, because people were getting it in for like 50 quid with like ace jack. They honestly were. So when that guy jammed from the big blind line with queens, it's like the easiest snap call of all time. Obviously, I got 50 big blinds. He turns over ace king. I think there's an ace on the flop. So that's how I bust that one. But I did leak a bit more money. I think I only got it in for like 50 quid. I didn't have around 70 quid. I probably leaked a little bit more from there, just from like, not hitting any flops, not hitting any stuff from that. Like I ran really, really, really bad in my first session. Like I just mentioned the hands where I flopped like nut flush, flopped like nut straight draw. Happened a few times. Like didn't get there at any point. These tough hands, obviously, like, I had to make a few tough folds. Didn't get any value when I did hit the ace queen in the other hand. Although obviously he doesn't have that much that can call us, so I don't expect to get that much value in that spot anyway. But basically I just didn't get any spots where I can get great value. So the session 1 was a bit disappointing. So yeah, like I said, like I've already kind of been over table image, but it seemed pretty tight. I seemed pretty solid. Like I think the regs, at least, who aren't results orientated, saw my play and respected my play. They weren't like, no one was trying to ISO me, no one was trying to put moves on me really. Um, they just sort of like, I wasn't a player that was viewed as spewy. Oh yeah, it is worth mentioning briefly. It doesn't have anything to do with my session, but there was a guy on this table that was so unlucky, ran so bad. It's actually, I mean, it hurt me. And he was the worst player at the table as well. Like, he was very fishy. Like, there was a couple of hands where he made like really loose calls, like river, really loose calls on like turn and river and stuff. So people knew this guy was like pretty bad. But like, my god, did this guy run bad? Like, he he got it in pre with aces for like 150 quid versus like ace queen and guy makes a straight. And it was like obviously something like that. And maybe he got it in with like ace king versus aces, and ace king makes a straight. He got his aces cracked again in this very same orbit. He picks up aces again, gets aces cracked by some sort of set or something. Doesn't get it in pre that time, but like kind of fishy cooldown. Like, I probably would have folded the aces on the river. I can't remember the exact hand, but like he wasn't beating much, but he calls anyway. Oh no, that was it. He had a set of aces, so he flops. He has aces. He flops a set, but and it's Broadway. It comes like ace queen jack. Bet someone calls, I think. Turn bricks. Bet someone calls, I think. River king. The guy with aces checks. Guy makes a like overbet jam or like pot size jam. Guy like cycles a set of aces. Guy turns over like 10 queen or something, or maybe even like ace 10. Like I think the case ace came on the flop to give the guy the set, so I think he had like ace 10, and obviously that flopped. Flopped a gut shot, straight draw and top pair. The guy with ace 10 and got there on the river, so the guy loses with aces again. And then another hand, he goes off, comes back like half an hour later with another like 200 quid. Ridiculously unlucky. He sits on my right, which I was very happy about, because he was pretty fishy. He was a bit of a station. So when he came and sat on my right, I was like, okay, well this is good. But I didn't get any spots on him, and he got super unlucky again. Like second nut flush versus nut flush for like 100 quid, 150 quid something. Busted again, like so unlucky. Like, he sat to my right and literally busted like in an orbit over like two hands of like absolute callers. So unlucky. But then again, he was like the biggest fish in the game probably. He wasn't even a particularly big fish. There was the reg short stacker, which I don't think was very good. He was making a lot of like really big jams that I thought were like pretty exploitable. Like, he was like 3-betting jam for like 70 quid. It's like, what are you doing? Someone opens to 6 and you just shove 60 quid in there from like the cutoff, and it's like, that seems so bad. And then he gets like called by like someone with aces, and like he flips over like ace queen. It's like, you should never, like, such a bad player of ace queen. You're literally just ISOing yourself against better hands. So he was pretty bad. And then the guy I just said that ran like really bad, he was a station. Other than that though, everyone seemed quite solid. There was the old guy that I talked about. He was very ABC. Like, I doubt he like had even knew what a bluff was. So he was very exploitable. Like, you knew what he had. He played. He had a very defined range by his betting, basically. So he was a good player. So they're the kinds of players I was playing with. And I briefly go over my style. On the top left here, you can see what my plan was. So my plan was play tight until otherwise inclined, and that kind of broke my rule almost immediately, because I was in a 3-handed game and then a 4-handed game where you can't play tight. I was playing, and I realised that people were folding a lot because they weren't used to playing short-handed. Obviously, like, live 3-handed games like never happen. So like, they weren't used to the fact that you know, like, you should be raising all your buttons, stuff like that. So I was like very aggro in that pretty much straight away. So that didn't really go. I didn't really execute that play time to otherwise inclined, but I did, when it got to 7-handed, I very much did. So my image was sort of tight aggressive. Not as much as it was in the second session. I'll go over that. I had like the tightest image of all time, but I had a probably tight passive image for a while as well. Like, they probably did think they could get quite not significant but decent value off me, because I was, like I said, I was like flatting in position with like draws basically and not getting there ever. So it looked like I was just. They probably suspected they probably, it makes sense that I had draws, so it makes my lines made sense. But people obviously they don't see my cards, so that they could think that I'm just making speculative calls on turn and river and then folding away, like making fishy turn calls. So I probably had a bit of a tight passive image the more it went on. Originally I was very tight aggressive image, but like as the night went on, I probably went into more of a tight passive image. So yeah, and patterns that I recognised. People's c betting patterns I thought was interesting. Like there was a guy that he had a c betting of like 50%, probably maybe not even that, like 40%, and it would seem reasonably clear that because he was opening quite a lot of pots and then just like checking on the flop when it came to him. So it seemed reasonably clear to me that he kind of was playing like he was only c betting with like value and like he was checking behind everything else, other than maybe like pure bluffs that just completely whiffed. But like his medium speculative hands and like lower hands and stuff like that were all just probably checking back. Even some of he may well have just checked back everything other than like really good value. So that was quite interesting. Other than that, there's not much I could say about patterns. There wasn't any patterns. Oh yeah, actually it is worth mentioning this. The way a lot of players play in these games is, and this happened in Liverpool, where I was playing as well. People will put in money basically, with a lot of hands and try and make nutted hands to stack people with because they're sitting deep. They're sitting like 200 plus pounds. They're sitting like 250 plus pounds. People will limp call or raise and then or open a pot from like middle position with like Jack 8. If I'm opening middle position or even early position, I'm raising to like 4, say in a 1-1 game. People will plenty of players will flat the button with 8 Jack or like 9-10 suited, which and they'll do it much more than they should. Like obviously you can do like I would do that sometimes. I want to have those hands in my range, but certainly I'm folding most of the time. But a lot of players will call with speculative hands, which makes it precarious because if I pick up jacks or queens in middle position and raise to £4 and then get flattered by the cut off the button and the big blind, and then it comes like queen 10-5, I c bet button flats. It's an awkward spot because they tend to just fold their weak like they tend to fold their like queen rag, or not queen rag, but like queen 8 probably folds. So then when I bet and get called, it's like I'm actually beaten quite a lot by sets and 2 pairs if it comes like jack turn. Oh, whoops, my computer's just gone to sleep. I'm actually beaten quite a lot. So I found, or not so much this session because I was pretty card dead, but I suspect I will find myself in spots like that quite a lot, and I'll go over that more for the plan later. I'll think about that more. But yeah, that's kind of what I'd say. And then quickly, just before I end this part 1 to the video, the session 1 review, what went well, what didn't. So what went well? Well, here's my aims. I want to play well and disciplined. I want to pay attention to the table. What went well? Well, I played disciplined very much so. I didn't get bored or anything. Which I am good at playing disciplined. It's probably my biggest strength. I never did something just for the hell of it. Like I always had reasons, even when I was like opening slightly light. It was because I had a tight image, or it's because of previous hands, because of who was on the big blind, stuff like that. So I definitely played very disciplined. I don't think I particularly played well for a live 1-2 player, but I think I played well considering sort of along discipline lines. Like wasn't making fishy. If I worked out in my mind, right or wrong, that I should be folding, then I would fold. Like I wasn't making speculative plays, which I think is important, which is good because it means if I make adjustments and when I review my hands and think about what I should do differently next time, I will just do those things next time. Like I'm not
I'm very confident in my ability to review and review, alter and execute changes in my style, changes in my play. I have the ability to change my style, have the ability to change lines next time I play hands. I'm not stuck in my ways, and I don't get tilted, or at least I didn't get tilted at this table. I didn't get, stuff like that. I feel I'm very confident in my ability to alter my play, and I'm very confident in my ability to recognise a change I should make going into next weekend and then execute that change, which is good. And I want to pay attention at the table. It can always be improved. I paid attention. Um, Probably not as much as I want to. Like I want to. I'm constantly. It's something that I really want to improve all the time. Paying attention at the table, like to all the hands. Like I wanna. I don't like missing hands. I hate that. I want to see every hand. I want to like note every hand mentally in my mind about and like the players. And I didn't do that. I didn't do that. I did a lot because it was in my mind. Like I really like I was thinking like Stan, you really need to like make sure you look at all these hands, and I did. Like the first hour, I very much did. Like very well. Like was noticing everything, but then like it did fade off a bit. Like I was making notes on my phone. I was like texting or noting or whatever, and then a tiny bit of daydreaming as well, which obviously is bad. And I do want to improve that all the time. Um, so yeah, that's what I'd say about that in terms of what went well and what didn't. Um, so yeah, that's pretty much it. And I'm just gonna end this video here and then make another video slightly later about session 2. Go over the 3 hands I have for session 2, um, and then go over what I thought about session 2, and then finally I'll go over my plans for next time. And hopefully the next video will be a lot shorter. I'll do timestamps in the description and stuff for like different parts of the review. So yeah, that's the end of part 1.